Well, hello, welcome to Thursday. Yeah, welcome to Thursday. Weekly wedding prep. I am Mark. I am excited to spend the next little while with you. Let's see what you got for me today. We are here to prep our wedding ceremonies, talk about past wedding ceremonies, and just generally be wedding officiants, hanging out together. I'm so glad to be doing this with you. Once again, this week, I have had a harried morning. Computer stuff, iCloud syncing stuff. I barely got here in time. No, I didn't get here in time. Started a minute late. Didn't get to see what was going on in the chat. Who tagged the wall first? I mean, I can see in my Restream software here that I got Jane here saying good morning. Snow expected tomorrow. And good to see you, Jane. And man, we got our snow yesterday. Was a snow day. That means the kids woke up and were absolutely thrilled. We got about 10 centimeters, which is less than 10 inches. It sounds kind of unremarkable when I put it that way, but it was enough that the kids got to stay home. And so a white Christmas has descended upon us. And I mean, tomorrow the temperature is absolutely going to plummet. It's going to be minus 20 centigrade here in New Brunswick, which means that's what it's going to be in Maine because, you know, despite the Canadian stereotypes, it doesn't just get cold the second you cross the border, right? And so in this area of the world, northern Maine, southern New Brunswick, it is going to be a chilly one. And we have our snow on the ground. So, you know, I love White Christmas. By the 27th of December, I'm ready for it to go away. Different than when I was a kid, of course, because I loved playing out in the snow and playing hockey on the old shinny rinks all winter long and getting frostbitten toes in the skates and all that stuff. But I'm older now, and I'd rather just live in a more temperate climate. It's starting to look a lot like Christmas, slightly snowing in Electric City, Washington. Good to see you, Jerry. I'm glad you are here. And it is starting to look a lot like Christmas. Tomorrow is our town's Santa Claus parade. It is also my son's birthday tomorrow, and so he wants to go out to a sushi restaurant. And so I think we're going to have the best of both worlds. I think we're going to sit and watch, sit in the sushi restaurant. I've already made a reservation at the front window that faces the main street, and then just watch the parade go by while we eat sushi and watch other people deal with the minus 20. That's the Christmas spirit right there. Yes, it is Jane. We got Sabrina saying hello to Jane of bobblehead fame, and this is my bobblehead, and I will forever cherish it. And so, welcome to those of you who are welcoming others and saying hello. Catherine Maranatha, good morning from sunny Long Island. I hope I can listen while I drive for the whole thing. Yeah, we are here while I say hello to people in the chat because that is largely why we are here. I want to talk to you today about a question I got about intoxicated guests, people who might faint, and dealing with objections. That'll be fun. I also want to talk to you a bit about the wedding report. That is an email wedding industry report that I subscribe to and that I get on a regular basis. And they've crunched some numbers about things to expect in 2026. So if you're in the business of wedding officiating, that's really fascinating and always good to know as you position yourself to book more couples in 2026. And so that's kind of what is in store for today. And I also then want to just, if we have time, read you an email. As you know, I follow up with clients and say, how did it go? If you purchased the course and I know you got a wedding coming up, or if you did a coaching call with me, because I do have a quick wham bam, quick help procrastinators package. This was from somebody that I spent some time with on the phone. She paid for a phone call with me. And then I followed up and said, how was it? And she knew it was going to be a tough one, but it is so emblematic, this email, such a summary of the kinds of things that wedding officiants may have to deal with. And I just thought I would read it to you because it is a testament to Rebecca's amazing performance that day, but also, wow. And I know just officiants love stories that make you go, holy cow, because we see ourselves in those situations all the time. And if you haven't yet, then good. I'm not gonna try to discourage you. Maybe you're a first timer here. Maybe you've never been an officiant and you're just considering. And I don't want to in any way discourage you from joining this incredible profession. Or like I said, if you're a friend or relative and you're just doing it once, there are preventative measures you can take typically, but you can't think of everything, especially when a couple is proving to be interesting leading up to the wedding. And that's why Rebecca had a sense that would happen. So I want to kind of share with you that email, her story, and you'll hear lots of not just officiant experience, but resonances perhaps with experiences you've had and ways to deal with things and roll with things. Sabrina says it is 11.67. We are very specific with the centigrade here, and drizzly in San Antonio, but we always pray for rain. So good, your prayers were answered today. Having a brunch taco, that's fantastic. That sounds great. I just had my lunch oatmeal. So now we're sharing weather, and what's the last thing that you ate? Let's just add that extra layer. Hello, Unboring fam from Loves Park, Illinois. A blistering 10 degrees Fahrenheit, a blistering 10 degrees. Grizzly in Venice, Italy now. Good to see you here, my friend. And Mitt from cold San Francisco. And I know, Mitt, you are an Unboring Wedding member. You purchased the course. Anybody else who wants to do that? unboringweddingacademy.com. Mitt did that, and he's got a wedding this weekend, and I'm cheering for you. He even sent me a really cool photo that, because I get so many emails, I haven't replied to it yet, Mitt, but it's like a strap that you got for your binder, so you can kind of one-hand it. It's really neat. You sent me a photo. From what I could see, you clip it on the top and the bottom, and it's a strap, and you can hold it without, worrying about dropping it. You could be very animated. You could be waving your hand, and the binder will be magically affixed to that hand. I'm like, I like that. I was like, I think I got to get one of those. Not that I'm extremely animated when I officiate, but any little extra support holding that binder couldn't hurt at all. And I like how you're thinking there, Mitt. 72 in Venice, Florida. Nice. You must be nuts living there. Where's the Christmas music? I wonder, is that a comment about me with the cold? I think it is. I think you're commenting on. I often complain that I live here as well, but you can't really choose. The one thing that we talk about, and my wife and I have entertained, let's move to a warmer climate, is when you're Canadian like this, typically you are insect averse, because we just don't get a lot of exposure to insects, especially huge ones. And when we've been to Costa Rica, we've been to Mexico, we've seen some larger flying bugs when we're on vacation. We've been to Jamaica, and one of these big guys got in our room, and that's when, on cold days, friends, if the cold bothers you, it works for me. I think about how I don't have to deal with huge insects, and then all of a sudden the cold doesn't bother us. I think, how would I like to put on another sweater right now, or be looking at a tarantula? That's to me the reality. And so, you know what? I'm going to take the cold. I could be nuts living here, but hey, anybody who lives in Australia is also nuts. And if they're just choosing to live there, it's incredible. I don't know how they do it. Good morning, freezing in Humble, Texas with 53 degrees, but it will warm up by Sunday's games. Nice. You are ready for some football. 78 degrees. Okay, we're getting very, very specific here. Good to see you, Mark, Unboring Wedding. Koa, good to see you in Temecula, Southern California. Hope you're doing absolutely great. I've been following you on the gram. You've been launching business ventures that are unrelated to wedding officiating, but it's exciting times for you, Koa. And Mitt says his strap works great. Paul is here from Connecticut. And yeah, it's Ivor from in Italy. Really cool, Ivor. You just became a member as well. I absolutely love what you've got going on in there in Italy, and you're going to start crushing some Unboring weddings in Italy, and really excited for you. Okay, yeah, yeah, I gotta see that strap in action. That's it, Mitt. Looks like the people want you to start putting that photo out on the socials or something like that. Maybe when we have an on-camera office hours at the end of December for members only, you can jump on the. What did we say? We said, are we still doing Google? No, we said Zoom is better, and that I'm cheap and I won't pay for it. Anyway, let's take that off camera. That's just for the Unboring wedding member family. Uh, but maybe you can get on camera one way or another. We're going to be on camera, and we will maybe see Mitt rocking his strap. Hello from Chicago. Good to see you, Mercy. Thanks for being here. Unboring International. It is international. We've got people all over the world. Sometimes Peter joins us from Marrakesh, and my goodness, there's celebrants from Australia. Although this time of night, because it's really the middle of the night for Australians, and they don't love how exclusionary we are. But I'm trying to appeal to the North American. We got to do the Pacific and the Atlantic and all the time zones in between. And some of you can join from Hawaii. I know we do get some people from England and the UK, but the farther over you get, I know we get into nighttime. We're doing our best here. And Jane's going to be in Rome in February for 2 weeks. Well, keep your eyes open for Ivor officiating weddings there in Italy. And you could bump into each other. Italy's a small country, right? It's kind of like when people say that, hey, you're Canadian. Hey, do you know my wife's sister's husband is from Canada? Maybe you know him. There are 35 million people. Okay, so if you are new to officiating, I would love for you to say hello. I know a lot of you are new members who came in over the past weekend, the Black Friday. And so a huge welcome to you if you're a new member. Hopefully you're enjoying Officiantly. I am dropping tutorial videos on my YouTube channel where you're watching this. You can go over to my videos and kind of putting a real user guide for what Officiantly does and how to use it. I did some lives last week and Friday about how to use Officiantly, so maybe you saw that. But now I'm making more succinct, polished videos that you can watch as you learn to use Officiantly and contemplate, if you haven't yet, getting Officiantly Unlimited. So that's officiant.ly. Now, I did get, like I said, a great, very small compared to Canada. Italy's small, yeah, in size compared to Canada. That is true. We got a lot of space here. I'd love to get your questions in the chat. That's why I'm here. We go to, maximum an hour, last week notwithstanding, because I was right in the middle of presenting Officiantly. It doesn't have to be an hour. And I know this is a slower season for a lot of people, so we're not kind of slammed with the imminent wedding stuff per se. But if you do have a wedding like Mitt, or others this weekend, or it's coming up, we do call this weekly wedding prep, because I want you to be able to jump on here and ask me any questions about maybe your script or a scenario or something your couple said or did or kind of hit you with. Not only will I answer, but all the incredible people in the chat are here to hang out and help you with that as well. And so Koa right here says, do you have any methods or a system for wedding vow renewals? I get those kind of client inquiries fairly often. This is a really great question. And man, I keep thinking about Officiantly because it's fresh on my mind, and I'm shooting all of these videos. And this is something that now we can do in Officiantly with the template feature, is where you can you go in and you build a template from the default, and that can be in a different language. It can be a very religious or ceremony. It can be a very small ceremony. Maybe you've got one template for just stand under a tree with your couple, elopement style. Maybe you got a huge luck style ceremony. And now we can also do wedding vow renewal ceremonies. Great question, Koa. And my answer to that is always, because I've done some wedding vow renewals. Let me just take you chronologically through how I think it happens. Somebody reaches out to you and says, do you do wedding vow renewals? Now, do you do wedding vow renewals? I used to turn them down because, I just didn't want to put the mental energy into that. But, last year, the year before, a couple reached out and said, will you do our wedding vow renewal? And really what piqued my interest is they said, I really love your Unboring wedding style. We've had some people get married and you officiated and they absolutely loved what you did. And so I reached out to them and I said, okay, so how long have you been married? They said, well, 20 years. And they said, your style is absolutely perfect because so many of our friends now that we've made over the last 5-10 years, they don't know the story of how we, say it with me, those three questions, two and a half. This is not the right hand for that. Those three questions, how you met, what your first impressions were, the first date, and the proposal. That is the story, the 3-act love story that we tell in every wedding. And in all the wedding vow renewals that I've done, those three panels, those three instances, episodes in the couple's relationship, it still plays just as well at a wedding vow renewal than as it does in a wedding. So the long answer to your question, because I don't know how to answer shortly, I'll give you a short answer, which is, do you have a method or system for wedding vow renewals? Yes, I do. It's called the Unboring wedding style and system. I don't say that to be glib. I say that, Koa, meaning in every wedding vow renewal I've done, it is the absolute same process. I charge the same amount of money. And so, you don't even need to change that. And then I have a wedding workshop with them, wedding vow workshop. In this case, this is where you would pull up Officiantly. Maybe you have a template script that is different because, of course, this is the biggest challenge for me when I do wedding vow renewals, is your mouth is on autopilot in terms of, are you ready for them to get married? Or, I pronounce you for the very first, that kind of thing. I really have to, it's almost like a fluent language now. Every time I'm in front of, wedding guests in that mode, I don't really have to think of every word I'm saying because it's said hundreds of times. However, when I'm doing a wedding vow renewal, you got to be very, very careful not to use that language. And so they're kind of minefields. In fact, I would circle them, highlight them in my script. But of course, you're not reading every part. I'll read the love story, of course, and all that. But you just got to be careful. That's the biggest minefield, I would say, is when you're doing a wedding vow renewal. Be careful with the pronouncing them, for the first time. You pronounce them again. You use a lot of again. So just, think about that when you are saying the usual things that a wedding officiant says. You want to throw in the word again one more time after 20 years, after whatever it is. But tell the love story exactly the same way. I mean, when you think about it, the opening remarks get everybody excited. They wanted a processional the same way. It was absolutely beautiful. I'm just talking about the most recent one. I've done a few wedding vow renewals, all the same way. The style and system, Koa, that you're asking about, it is the same one that I do for weddings. And I said, the only thing that changes is the language. You got to be careful. But then, what they love about each other now after all this time. And for vow renewals, I do encourage that they do them themselves, that they kind of say their own vows or read their own. Couples who have been together a long time, I understand maybe younger couples, I don't want to say anything, but couples this long together, I do say, would you like to kind of read like a love letter in the ceremony to each other? It can be vowy or not vowy. It's up to them. But then, of course, we can lead them through the repeat after me. And that's where, again, with the vows, you tweak. I still choose you. I will continue to. So you want to tweak that language a little bit. That's why I said, like, writing a template for wedding vow renewals inefficiently, it will be very helpful. Once you do it once, you've kind of got it for good. And you'll catch those areas where you need to, when you read it and say, okay, well, this sounds like a first time thing, but they've been together years and years. So you tweak and massage the language. Will they do an exchange of rings or not? That sometimes in vow renewals, couples will exchange a new ring. And again, you can pronounce them again. 20 years vow, having renewed your vows, I now pronounce. You can do all the same thing. I present to you, not for the very first time, but I present to you with freshly renewed vows, that kind of thing. So those key moments in the ceremony where officiants make proclamations, they'll change slightly. But the process, the unboring wedding style, what they love about each other, what everybody loves about them, that's so fun too. Because they're more than happy to have you poll their community. Sometimes their children, their children who are older, really mom and dad, this and that. You might have more occasion in a vow renewal to have some people speak to who they have been and are in their community for the last however many years. Vow renewals can happen at 20 years, 40 years, 60 years, right? So it's going to really vary. But put all those same ideas in the pot, have the wedding workshop with your couple, walk them through it. And that's what has been so fun for me as an officiant with wedding vow renewals, is the couples typically say, love your style. I want what you do for weddings. I want you to do that exact same thing for our vow renewal. You'll just have to tweak a few things. Now, that is my response. Of course, there are always great responses that may be different in the chat here. Let's see. You say, Koa says, I was thinking about how you continue the story of their union. What 3-part story highlight can we do? Yeah, I understand that you think, well, that's ancient history, what the proposal, how that went down. And the issue with that is, because you're right, like 20 years, 40 years, 60 years, highlights. And I talked about this at Wedding MBA. If you were in the room for my speech, some of you were there and were actually attending my speech. Some of you were there and were not. It's okay. There's a lot going on. I talked about how what makes a story worth listening to is the want. The main character needs to want something. And so in our 3-act love story, that's what makes this work so much. In fact, the title of my Wedding MBA speech was Give Them What They Wanted. And what I meant by that was deliver the story of what they wanted then. So when they met each other, there was interest. They wanted to get to know each other. Or maybe they didn't. They couldn't stand each other. I've told those stories too. They wanted to get away from each other, but one wants to pursue and the other wants to. There's always got to be a want. Okay, I quoted some screenwriters. Any story you have read and enjoyed, any movie you've watched, any TV show, what makes it successful is the fact that the main character wants something and you know what that is. Now, sometimes the big shock is, the main character thought they wanted something, but then they didn't know they wanted something else. But you as the viewer know, all right, we're not going to get too much into those weeds. But here's my concern, and that's why I wouldn't want to, when I've done vow renewals, I have not added anything recent, even though there's lots of opportunity there, reason to do that. It's beautiful. You've had 3 kids. You went on this vacation. Somebody lost their job. Somebody got a job. You helped each other through tough times. There is all that. However, it would just be kind of anecdotes, not bad, but I consider it absolutely essential to have the act 1, act 2, act 3. But then if you start adding more, what they love about each other, that's amazing. What other people love about them, I would not want to get rid of that. So now you're just adding things. And I've said it before and I stand by it. When your speech is north of 10 minutes, 12 minutes, 14 minutes, it's like, that's enough. You're done. You should be getting off. Well, as we add more and more things, the speech gets longer and longer, and you've already told this amazing story, and it's not going to come off as a story. If you're just listing off awesome things that happened in their last 20 years, 30 years, 40 years together. My wife and I are coming up on 20 years married at the end of this month. There's so many things you could say about our last 20 years together. So many things that have happened. Living in Toronto, moving from Ottawa, getting master's degrees, moving to New Brunswick, creating this home together, having 2 kids, all the things. But it doesn't, any of those anecdotes, that's all they would be. They wouldn't be like a story. Now, of course, our life is a story, but you just don't have time to do it as an officiant. So I'm just going to say, if you want, that's absolutely a great idea. I don't do it because you're going to start getting the sweats up there when you feel like you've told the story, 3-act story, and then anything after that is not quite a story. It's more like anecdotes. And honestly, I would say that those anecdotes about them are best left to maybe what people love about each other. You can put some of that in that section, what other people love about them, rather. And then kind of speeches at their dinner. I'd want to talk to them about, are you having a reception after the vow renewal? And are you, you're not their reception planner by any means, but are you thinking of having some people speak? So that's why I have not added anything to a wedding vow renewal aside from, in addition to the Unboring wedding style and system that I teach and deploy at every wedding. It's a fine idea, but that's just why I have not done it. Yeah, I now pronounce them once again. Yeah, that's the kind of fun stuff. Now, Mitt says, I have several elements in my ceremony next week, like parental blessing, veil and cord ritual, coin exchange, and unity candle. Do I introduce these elements first or just do them? That's a great question, Mitt. And my philosophy around any of these things is, I have a YouTube video about it that you can watch. It's kind of like the formula for any unity ritual. So if you're watching this, don't pop over, duplicate the tab or something, wait until you're off your phone, but go into my videos and you'll see I kind of have a formula for every single unity ritual I believe is the officiant, because you are talking to, and this is a possibility that's opened up because of the way we do it. Because you are talking to the guests, you will tell the guests what's happening now, and then talk about any significance or the meaning. You might need to explain the symbolism. That's totally fine. So, in this case, you might say, Sam and Alex, you've got, let's see, a parental blessing. Parental blessing, you don't really need to explain. It's more for veil and cord ritual, that kind of thing. If nobody has ever seen, what does this mean? What does it do? So you can say, Sam and Alex will now observe the time-honored tradition in Filipino culture, whatever it is that you want to say there, of the veil and cord ritual. And I always talk about how you're going to be explaining it while they do it. So that there's no real dead air or awkwardness. I do this for sand mixing. They will now mix sand, and then they do that, and then you explain what it means in the same way that they are mixing the sand, and you just write up a little, of course, poetic explanation of what it means for them, in the same way that these sands are being mixed. Their lives are forever being put together, blended today, and can never be separated. And you can quote some scripture or faith words from a faith tradition there while they're doing that, just so that while they're doing it, you actually are accommodating that and saying it, and also explaining the symbolism of what it means. That's what really gives it its power. So, yes and no, Mitt, a little bit of both. Parental blessing, you'll obviously introduce the parents. I'm not sure what's involved in your parental blessing. Are they doing it? Are you doing it? The coin exchange, the unity candle, man, you've got a lot of stuff going on in your ceremony. So for the most part, I'd say maybe not the blessing. For the blessing, you just say, your couple's name, have asked or would like, and so I invite, or that kind of thing. But introduce each unity ritual before you do it, and then explain what's going to happen briefly, and then talk about the meaning. And ideally, the couple are doing it, or someone is helping them with it while you are explaining the meaning for this particular couple. Okay, let's see what other people are saying. It says, my mouth is on autopilot too. Yeah, you've got to that was the biggest minefield, is you actually have to think about what you're saying when you're doing a vow renewal, just because of the autopilot stuff. Paul's got a chem check tonight. That's awesome. You have a potential new couple to officiate for in 2026, or maybe this month. Who knows? I had not thought of how many people the couple know that never heard their first meetup love story. So it's still valid, and it'll have the same impact, potentially their own children even. Yeah, like I said, this couple that had been married 20 years, their teenage kids were there, and it just took them right back to the 90s. And you're telling it in such a focused way, right? And they said, we've never sat around telling my wife and I have made so many friends here in New Brunswick, and after 20 years, coming up on our 20 year, We got married in Korea. None of the people who were part of our lives then are in our lives now. Obviously, as we've moved to a whole different place, we still have those friends that we keep in touch with. We probably would invite them to a vow renewal. When I think about it, like no one from 20 years ago would we be in a position to invite to a wedding vow renewal now. So it is just as valid. And my wife and I have a hilarious, amazing story. And I would love for one of you to tell it to the friends we've recently acquired over the last couple decades, and who we would invite to a vow renewal. So think about it like that. Don't think about it as, oh, this is ancient history. It doesn't matter. When we hang out with couple friends, we're getting to know. So how did you guys get married? How did you get, those are anecdotes you tell together. So when you have somebody formally explaining it in front of a whole crowd, it is a beautiful thing and still very, very relevant. Okay, so Jane is going to fly up and do our vow renewal for free. All right, well, we'll hit you up on one of the big numbers. 2020, it's coming up a bit too fast. Maybe 2025. What is that? Is that the silver? Is that I forget what anniversary that one is. But thank you, Jane. That spot, I guess, is reserved for you. Naomi and I love hanging out with you, and that would be a hoot. So there you go. Sabrina also has a chem check happening tonight. You guys got the bookings shaken. This is amazing. A wedding in December 2026. That couple really wants to lock you down, I'd say. A couple that is looking for their officiant a year out they know what's up. They know how important the officiant is. So good for you. You have only 3 paid weddings so far next year. All right, well, that's okay because the season is about to hit. December is very quiet. It's very quiet in course world for me as well. It's the most expensive month of the year and also the quietest, so that's a lot of fun. And then, of course, you're just recovering from wedding MBA financially. But January, of course, everyone's getting engaged, and here they come. That's a great segue to. I just wanted to read for you the wedding report as promised. This email that I just got today, and basically, it's something you should know about. It says that weddings, the sheer amount of weddings, number of weddings in the U.S. continues to decline. I'd say it's not something to be too worried about in terms of. It doesn't mean, oh man, there's like hardly any weddings anymore. Weddings in 2024, there were 2,018,000 reported weddings. Just looking at my email. In 2025, there were 1.98 million weddings. So you see like a decline of like 100-ish thousand, just under. And in 2026, there's projected to be in the US 1.95, so a decline of maybe 30,000 wedding ceremonies. So for those of us who are watching live today, there might be 25 of us, somewhere between 25 and 50 when all is told here. We have 1.9 million weddings to, I'm not in the States actually. So typically it's fascinating because the population of Canada is 1/10 of the US ish. What are you guys at? 340 million people, and we're at about 35 million people. And it's similar for weddings. It's usually, move the decimal over. So 190,000 weddings, say. So that's a lot of work for me. I can handle 190,000 weddings. And so, you're looking at a slight decline in terms of the absolute number. But what they go on to report that somehow, I don't know how, let's refrain from economic commentary right now, but it has been a pretty brutal year for most people. And I've shared with you that it's been a challenging year for me in terms of business and weddings and all that kind of stuff. Weddings spending is rising. In 2024, the average wedding cost and what couples are willing to pay was $31,400. Yes, for the wedding, 31.5 grand for the wedding. My wife and I think our wedding cost $500. So, and then we $31,000 on master's degrees. So different. That's great. It's great news for us officiants. 2025, $32,000 $999. So $33,000 was the average wedding cost. And then 2026, you're looking at $35,000, 34, 30. So you basically what they're saying here in the wedding report is that you're seeing an increase in spending. When they crunched the numbers, they saw people spending more and people spending less. So their theory around this in the wedding report is kind of the barbell effect that wedding pros, the wedding report is just kind of sent out to wedding pros in general. Wedding pros want to be aiming their communication, their promotion, their packaging, their pricing at either one of those growing markets, the value couples and the high-end couples. But what we are seeing, a common trend in both, and this is great news for officiants, again, especially unboring wedding officiants, couples are really doubling down, tripling down. It's been happening over the last few years on a great guest experience. And so I'm going to say that if you are promoting and marketing yourself as an officiant in 2026, you want to be aiming your communication, whether it's on socials or your splash on your homepage or whatever it is on your website, to be talking about the great experience for your couple and the guests. I've been doing this for years with the laughing photos, that kind of thing. Couples are really interested in a great experience for their guests. Now, you might also, and Wedding Report says don't try to be all things to all people. That was mentioned at Wedding MBA in some of the presentations as well. But for wedding officiants, you can offer kind of an elopement package, a simple package, a luxe package. So you can have that on your website. I wouldn't say nickel and dime people. This is a whole philosophy in itself. I don't want to get down that rabbit hole, but you can add this, you can add that. I'll bring a sound system. I'll have the rehearsal. I'll tell your story. Everything costs $100 more, a la carte kind of thing. I don't love that. I think you're going to get run right. Guest count. Officiants get in a lot of trouble when they're like, it costs this for 10 guests. It costs this for 25 guests. It costs this for 50 and over. Because then you're policing your couple's guest count and you feel cheated when they invite more people, etc. But in a nutshell, you can start thinking about, as a wedding officiant, hey, people are spending a lot of money on weddings. And so, if you're thinking the average spending is $35,000 and you charge $800,000, $1,000 to officiate and bring the incredible experience that couples seem to be looking for, and they're going to consider you. Same thing for value couples. If you say I have a really low, affordable package, but I'm still going to bring a lot of fun and experience, that is going to do really well for you. Wedding officiants, we have a reputation for being kind of stodgy and dry and nickel and dimey. Not anyone on this call, of course. Not anyone listening here. Not any unboring wedding officiant. But just in general, back in 2019, when I spoke for the first time at Wedding MBA, I said, why are people turning to friends and relatives? It's because professional officiants really don't have a great reputation. And for the last 6 years, myself and those of you who are members and in the chat here, we have been actively working to turn that ship around and just get our culture to a place where people expect a lot more from wedding ceremonies. Couples know that the wedding ceremony can be an absolutely great time, electrifying, goosebumpy, laugh, cry. Don't settle for anything less. Don't settle for anything else. We've been working on that together. It's been such a thrill to be a part of that journey with you. And so we're seeing more. We're just seeing that trend continue. Couples are spending more on things like reception, like fog machines, dance, entertainment, lighting, that kind of thing. They're even though cutting back on DJs, which that's an interesting thing. You say that they're interested in a couple experience in the guest experience, but DJs are being cut back a little bit. because there's just this sense that, hey, plugging in a computer or an iPhone into some big speakers and creating a Spotify jam and having that's people are going to be engaged more with that experience than with a professional DJ. I'm not agreeing with that necessarily, but that is the trending where couples are saying, we want to spend money where we and our guests are going to feel like we're having a great time. That's why I think it's a really, really fertile ground opportunity for professional wedding officiants like you, whether you've officiated 2 or 3 or 200 or 300, to lean into that and say to couples, if you want to have a great time in your ceremony, I know how to give you that. Okay. Is the wedding report available to us? I talk about them enough. Do they have a link? Let's see. If you find the wedding report, share with a friend. Copy. Look at that. I'm going to do that right here. I'm sure they would appreciate it. At the bottom of the email, and I bet you they're not used to this, just somebody smacking it into a live. But there you go. It's just some really helpful, it's kind of finger on the pulse information. And I just enjoy any kind of information I can get about the wedding industry. So I just popped it in the chat, and you can subscribe to that if you like getting email subscriptions in your inbox. It's not for everybody. Sabrina, we've been married 35 years. A huge chunk of our wedding prep included recycling items from another family member's wedding this week, the week before. Lots of financial savings. There you go. There are savings to be found. Couples are doing that, and they're thinking, how can we make our wedding day more of an enjoyable party? I want to turn now, unless you got other questions. I'm looking in the chat there. And I got asked about intoxicated guests, intoxicated wedding party, intoxicated marriers. Have you had that situation in the chat where, and I've had it. I mean, literally one wedding I officiated at Steam Whistle Brewery, downtown Toronto, which is right across from the Rogers Centre where the Blue Jays play, on the same street. Beautiful venue. And I got there, I went into the upper room. The couple had seen each other ahead of time. They'd done a first look. So by the time I get there an hour before the ceremony, I open the door, and every surface, including the large table in the middle of the room, every surface was covered in an empty green bottle. I mean, and it was like, 8 people on both sides. So we're talking a room of 20 people, but it looked like they had all had 10 beers each. I've never seen so many. I think that's part of the deal, or it was at this brewery. Was, hey, you get the wedding party or the wedding couple just gets beer. And so they sure were taking advantage of it. So there were some people intoxicated. I made sure to tell the couple the night before, and this is something you've got to remember. Nowhere is it going to say, as far as I know, in a lot of jurisdictions, I looked at the New Brunswick Act, the Ontario Act, intoxicated to get married. But I always tell a couple, I cannot marry 2 people who are visibly intoxicated, because that's just true of any kind of legal contract. It can be declared null and void. In fact, if you go, I've looked this up, not for myself, just out of curiosity. If you look up, how can I annul my wedding? That is one of the things, is the couple can go to a lawyer or whoever you go to for such things and claim that they were intoxicated, that they were not in their right mind. Now, again, the burden would be on them, I think, to produce that evidence. And that's why, as a wedding officiant, it's important to make sure that your couple are not intoxicated, such that if they wanted an annulment the next week or month or something like that, that they could kind of shake the trees of the people who are at the wedding and just say, hey, we need some people to witness the fact that we were not in our right minds when we signed this marriage contract. That is, again, something that Canada has going for it, and that I teach an Unboring Wedding. do the signing right in the ceremony. Everybody can see the paperwork being signed. You'll have your witnesses right there. And ideally, everyone is going to see that the couple were in their right mind. They were not slurring their words or rocking back and forth, or, they didn't have the watering eyes, that kind of thing. Couples tend to maybe take one toke or take a quick shot before their ceremony to calm their nerves if that's what they need to do. But you cannot marry a couple who is intoxicated, because that's just true of any legal agreement. It can be declared void through a legal process if they were to say, I was too drunk to understand what I was doing. Nowadays, of course, it's not medieval period. We're not doing forced marriages. You've met with the couple. You know that they want to get married. But if there can be any doubt cast on the wedding day itself, you need to pause. And I have heard of some officiants saying, look, you got to start drinking a lot of water. You got to sober up. And we are going to wait about an hour or so until you start to not show symptoms of being intoxicated. That is something that an officiant might need to do. I've never had to do it. I've definitely seen couples get close, but I tend to warn them in a friendly, affable way the night of the rehearsal. Enjoy your evening. Just remember, if you're hungover tomorrow, that's fine, but I can't marry someone who is under the influence because this is a legal agreement. That's kind of the way that you need to frame it. Now, in terms of wedding party, absolutely. I've seen some absolutely smashed wedding party. That is not your responsibility to police those folks. They might have a problem. They might, everybody knows them, likely, of course, the couple. And hey, if Buddy, who's the best man, just has to be super high during the ceremony, then that, I don't feel like that's your business. If Buddy is not creating a scene or being unruly. I remember for me, before my best friend's wedding back in 2003, I smashed my wrist so badly that I needed full-on surgery. So his wedding was actually a couple of days before my surgery was scheduled. I had a cast on. I was in so much pain. It was a few days. They casted my arm and said, we're scheduling you for surgery on Monday. His wedding was the Saturday. I took so many painkillers to get through that day, and I had my suit on, but of course the big cast. His fiance wasn't all that thrilled. And, I thought I was getting through it well, but everybody in the seats could see that my eyes were almost closed and people were laughing at me after. Again, I didn't feel it at the time. So the person in that situation might think they're crushing this. Nobody can tell. But chances are everybody else can tell. And if it's one of the witnesses, if one of the witnesses is intoxicated, like if best man there that I just described is signing papers, I would swap that person out, just because, again, you never know what's going to come up in terms of them wanting to dissolve their marriage or something. Well, the witness was drunk. Like, you just don't want the witness was hot. You want everybody lucid when they're signing paperwork. So that's the other thing I would say about that. In terms of guests being unruly, I mean, you just handle that in any way that you would. You advocate for your couple, you protect your couple, you defer to your couple. Ultimately, as the officiant, you are mastering the ceremony. You are in command of the room, but you can't control the environment. So you always want to reply graciously. It's like with anything else, when there's a baby crying or a lawnmower going, you might want to say, shall we continue? Shall we pause the ceremony? You don't want to visibly get in a fight with your couple's relatives at all, or friends. Again, you are stepping into a family system, a friend ecosystem when you're officiating a wedding that everybody there knows better than you do. There was a great presentation at Wedding MBA by Maria about family drama. She had some really great advice about how to handle family members. But basically, you want poise. You want to talk to your couple in the ceremony workshop about, if you get a sense that there's some family drama, then that's the great time to suss it out. She said that she asks about that with every couple. Is there any family drama that I should know about? So you can add that to your list of questions if you want. It's not exactly ceremony planning related, but it'll give you a heads up. Sometimes they'll volunteer some information. But ultimately, you want to take position of kind of put that hat on before anything even happens so that you're ready for it, of protecting your couple, defending your couple, not being confrontational, but also deferring to your couple and offering that we pause the ceremony. Should we continue the ceremony? You can definitely say to somebody, ask somebody who's unruly, invite them to maybe please, can you please leave and then rejoin us when you are able to, something like that. But always gracious. I've been in the middle of situations at rehearsals and things where you don't want to take a side. Now, remember, you are, like I say, you're always on your couple's side, but you don't want to be combative, I think is the ultimate goal. You want to make sure that you take any energy that is coming at the front, absorb it, and spin it in such a way that your couple feels safe and honored, and that is your role for sure. We've got audio cutting out here. Okay, sorry to hear that. I wonder how long I've been blathering on with you not being able to understand. Competent parties in contracts, no drugs, alcohol, be of legal age. That's good. Competent parties, put it in your contract. That's very good. Father of the bride attempted rehearsal, kept disappearing to go to the bar. We had a fun little chat afterward, asked him to hold the party until after the wedding ceremony the next day. That's good. Saying it in a fun chat way is great. So that's really important. There's also, the fainting piece, the objections piece that I was asked about by the same person. When somebody faints, in a similar way, you stop the proceedings, of course, because somebody who needs medical attention gets priority in the moment. And you say, you just say that. Say what happened. Oh, we've just had somebody lose consciousness. We are going to pause the ceremony here and make sure that they get the attention they need. And that's all you need to say really quickly. It's like anything else I say. When something happens, you say the thing. So that's why you don't just go, oh, freeze up. Somebody recently fainted in a very public setting in the United States. And to see how certain people responded was absolutely fascinating. We're not going to get more specific than that. But what needs to happen when you're on the mic is to say, oh, it looks like we've had someone possibly lose consciousness. I want to make sure this person gets the care they need. When you have the mic, say what happened and say what needs to happen next. You've covered your bases. The right people who know what to do will spring into action. People typically know what to do when somebody faints. There's going to be somebody there. If you want to get your kind of CPR or medical training in that regard as a wedding officiant, that is probably a great idea. But a lot of time it's just somebody who needs to be given a glass of water, be taken care of. They need to be cooled down, something like that. And so you just say it, let that happen, and then come back when everything resumes. As far as objections go, I mean, that's not a thing anymore, really. Back in the day, does anyone know of any legal reason why these two may not be married today? Some people objected because I'm still in love with her, but that's not a legal reason, right? The only reason to stop a wedding was the legal reason. And like I say, we just don't do that anymore. So we've got audio coming in, cutting in and out, which is very strange for me because I'm not seeing any connection issues at all. And if that's consistent, if other people are experiencing that, then hey, maybe it's all the snow on the lines out there. So let me know if our connection is too frustrating for you to understand right now, and we will just call it here. We've got two people saying the audio is cutting in and out, even though I have a perfect hardwired connection, and it's really strange to hear that because like I said, typically I'd be getting flashes on the screen of poor connection or that kind of thing. Just wanted to end this time because I promised with Rebecca's email. What a yarn. Here's her story, and if you've been officiating, this might be the moment you dread, but I just want to show you that this was Rebecca's first wedding, and she handled it like an absolute champ. And so I'll just let her speak for herself. She says, the wedding went spectacularly well in regards to love, memories, and laughter from the couple and their guests, but it was not without consistent weather and tech surprises. So for context, this was in the Appalachian Mountains in Kentucky, where she flew from New York City to officiate for her friends who were extremely disorganized. They're very free spirits. She was very worried about all the moving parts and how little her couple cared about it. 200 guests in a very mountainous setting, kind of a park setting, no electricity. It's the kind of thing where she just said everything can go wrong here. So everybody knew that coming in, and there were torrential rains forecasted, but they were going to go on with it anyway. So that is the context of Rebecca's incredible story here. Good to see you here, John. I'm just coming on here and seeing that some people can still hear me. Okay. The area was facing a flash flood warning for a week leading up to the wedding, as I just said. The day of the wedding, we thought we'd either miss the rain or it would be a quick sprinkle. Instead, it started raining just as the couple started walking down the aisle. Because there was no one really in charge, I was starting to realize it was up to me to charge forward and readjust 250 plus guests in an outdoor setting. 250 guests, outdoor setting, no wedding planner. And what she just said is absolutely true. I say this all the time. If there's no planner, guess who is going to be in charge of the ceremony? That's why the wedding workshop is so crucial. She and I were on the phone planning this. I said, it's going to be you. Here she said, it is right. Now, of course, you're not planning the rest of the day, but just by default, the half hour before the ceremony, in terms of music, seating, and that kind of thing, when you're the officiant, that stuff is going to fall to you if you care at all. And that's what happened here. We continued with the wedding in the rain. I made lots of SeaWorld and other rain jokes. That's perfect. This is one thing that I teach. That's why I'm kind of reading this email. She just did everything so right. When people are getting wet and soaked and even unhappy about the elements, you just got to say it. It loses its power. People can laugh about it and say, okay, we're all in this together. It's not the officiant's fault. They're not enjoying this any more than I am. But you just name the thing that's happening. I invited people who wanted to stay dry to stand underneath the reception tent that was immediately behind the ceremony area. Most of the guests stayed in their seats. An uncle came up and held a golf umbrella over the couple. A second person, my fiance, covered me with an umbrella and then switched off, covering other ceremony participants, bride's parents singing, etc. The mics were a whole other issue. I spoke with the sound team in advance of the ceremony. The head sound guy decided this was the day to train his 13-year-old grandson, who did everything wrong, and the sound guy just sat there and watched. The lav mics that I warned would not work given the weather and in high wind and cell interference from 250 guests, of course. After miking up myself, bride and groom, they didn't work. I always say this, lav mics outside are a nightmare, especially in the conditions she said. And she said they're going to be a problem. But in this scenario with grandpa and 13-year-old son, it's sure enough, they crapped out. They work during sound check, don't they always? But once we had the packs on and couldn't get them off, they crapped out and the whole audience present. I quickly directed the sound team in front of all the guests to switch to a stand mic and rearrange the ceremony area. She did that on the fly. That was a good call. 250 people. There was awkwardness in the moment, no doubt at all. But do you just proceed and then everybody in 250 people, do you just decide, well, they're not going to hear because I don't want that awkward 1 minute. No, you need to just own it and say, look, these aren't working. And we're going to switch off the mics if you'll just bear with us a moment. That way, at least when the ceremony proceeds, everyone can hear. So she made a great judgment call there. To start the ceremony, grandson, sound trainee, played wrong processional song. I had to stomp to the back of 250 plus chairs in the sinking mud and rain to hiss at him to put on the correct song because I knew the groom would not process to the wrong music. He was very specific about it. Interesting that the groom was specific about something that he probably had a sense would happen as well. I'm not coming out to the wrong song. The song was wrong. I was grateful to have leather boots on underneath my officiant dress all my script in plastic protectors. Those sheet protectors that I talk about you need. Thank goodness, because her binder was getting soaked, right? You'll see from the pictures, I was soaking wet most of the ceremony. She did attach some pictures. Just as it was time for the vows, the sun came out and we could put the umbrellas down. All in all, the bride and groom were very happy and moved by the ceremony, and guests were raving about it, and I'm so glad everybody was happy. Despite giving very clear cues to the sound team pre-ceremony, I had to say very pointedly from the podium to grandson trainee, play the music now. He never got the cues. Again, she did the right thing. Play the music. You don't just stand there. If it's not happening, you need to say it. I love how directive she was. Not ideal, but in the moment when things like that happen, that's why I'm reading this story to you, is you can learn from somebody else's experience. It's almost like you have to experience something once to respond to it even better a second time. Well, this is kind of helping you experience this incredible wedding scenario of this first time officiant. Thanks for giving me the tools and training to be able to pivot so nimbly during my first officiant outing. I appreciated our call. It prepared me, etc. I enjoyed the officiant experience so much that when I'm more recovered from this experience, I think I'd enjoy officiating more professionally. Maybe, though, for people who have wedding planners. That was an epic email. This is the joy that I get helping folks. Not all the stories. In fact, I don't want those Monday morning reports to be quite that entertaining. But the reason why I read that is how instructional it was in how she, in her first officiating experience, was not intimidated into silence. She always made that call. And that's kind of the thing I'd like to leave you with today in this is be directive, say what's happening, do what needs to be done. And you should know that if there's no planner, and especially if your couple doesn't really care, super flexible, very like, hey, easy going, that means if this thing's going to get pulled off, you are going to be the de facto planner the half hour before the ceremony and during, and then once you get them up the aisle and down, pronounce you, then you can go and have a drink, and you're off for the rest of the day. I love this community. I love those of you who, get my services and then follow up with a report like that. Mitt, yours is going to go so much better this week. This weekend, I assure you. The story of a ceremony in Appalachian is terrifying and reassuring that a prepared officiant is capable of handling it all. That is 100% that's it. That's the point. Exactly. It's snowing in Toronto. Thanks for checking in, Judith. And just in time. Okay, if I ever do a wedding in the rain, they're paying me for new shoes. You can send them an invoice. That's amazing. She knew to wear leather boots. I would be, yeah, I know. My shoes are, I love my shoes, and I think I'd wear my beat up like grass cutting Blundstone boots in a scenario like that, as many people did. Yeah, weddings without planners, what an adventure. Okay, so I'm glad I was going to say, I'm glad not everybody's having an audio problem. Sorry to those of you who were. I just want this to be an hour, so you only have to provide an hour for me, especially those of you who are on lunch break and need to get back to work and stuff. Thank you so much for joining. We did get everything in today. Means a lot to me too when you email some questions and jump in the chat and ask questions. Thanks, Koa. All the best on wedding vow renewals. Hopefully that was helpful. A lot of you asked great questions, provided great context, more information. We're better together, and that's why I love coming here on every Thursday with you. I will see you next week. Same time, same place. That's the plan. Thank you so much for joining. Thanks for complimenting the hair. And now Koa is saying, anyone have a wedding planner upcharge free clause in their officiant contract? I'll let you guys continue to take this into the chat. Man, that maybe I should take that on next week, Koa. That is a great question. That's something we could really get into. Great question, but it is time to wrap this up today. Hope you have a wonderful day, wonderful week. I'll see you back here next week. Until then, friends, marry on.